Hello and welcome to Wk3 Learning Objectives in the watercolor class. And we are going to study the color wheel. Many of you probably have a lot of information about this already. And so the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. Why are they called the primary colors? They are this way because you cannot create them by mixing any other colors. And just so that you know, there are two main types of color wheels. This is the subtractive color wheel. And it is called the subtractive color wheel because you're actually adding pigment over a surface so that you are taking away from the original surface. And the other type of color wheel we're not really going to talk about in this class. It is called the additive color wheel. And that one really deals with light and things like video and the whole digital realm of color. So very different. So the primary colors, again, red, yellow, and blue. Secondary colors are any color in between the primary colors. So the orange, green, and violet. If you look at the example that I have here, you'll notice that the violet is very dark. And I actually did this using acrylic paint and not watercolor. I'm actually a little bit more, I'm a little bit more comfortable using acrylic. And I haven't done the color wheel with a watercolor just yet, or at least I can't find it. And so I just threw this one in there, okay? So tertiary colors are not shown on the example that I have here. Instead, they are colors that are in between the primary and the secondary color. So a color that would be in between a yellow and a green would be a yellow-green. A color that is in between a blue and a violet would be blue-violet. And if there's a color in between red and orange, it would be red-orange. Okay, so very easy to remember. And some key characteristics of the color wheel. The warm colors are anything that deals with red, orange, and yellow. The cool colors are the violet, blue, and green. And when it comes to things like working with the color wheel in your composition, a lot of the warm colors have a tendency to move forward, while cooler colors have a tendency to recede. And so some interesting things about the color wheel and color theory in general is that there are all of these rules. But you will find out after looking at a lot of different work and after looking at a lot of very successful work that there is no direct connection with the color wheel and successful works of art because these rules are made, yet they're always broken. And so we like to learn them for the sake of getting to know the behaviors of the color. So every color on the color wheel has a certain level of chroma, or the saturation, has a certain level of value, of light and dark, and also the level of hue, okay? And so when it comes to these tonal values, we're actually talking about different colors and the darks and lights that are connected to them. So if you hear the word tonal value, we're basically talking about how light and dark a particular hue is. You'll notice that a color like yellow is quite bright, so you can say that it is actually a very light hue opposed to something like a violet where the tonal value is a lot darker. Okay, so when it comes to the color wheel and watercolor, you can say that the easiest way to create lighter tones is to allow the whiteness of the paper to shine through the transparency of the pigment. So when it comes to creating lighter tones, you're basically just using less pigment. It's very different from other types of paint media. I can tell you that as an oil painter myself, I'm almost doing more work just to make things lighter. In watercolor, it feels like you're doing less. Instead, it's more about just preparing in advance. And so when it comes to watercolor, the easiest way to create darker tones is by mixing a more higher concentration of the pigment in the wash. And so that is basically it for week 3 learning objectives. I hope that you guys get to experiment a little bit with the projects. And again, let me know if you guys have any questions.